Night time's the right time. Let everybody know you've tuned on to Red Rose Radio. Bring him if you dare. Allan Beswick, the late night show.
13 minutes to 1. The telephone number if you wish to join us on the phone in is Preston 56 1000. Back to the lines. How do Steve?
Last words before he died on the cross.
You'll have to start that again.
What were Jesus' last words before he died on the cross?
We don't want to know. How do line 2? Joe.
Oh, hello, Alan.
Hello.
I would like to talk about the Talkabout line, which British Telecom is publicising very widely at the moment. Apparently, this is the line where you can ring up and have a party on the telephone.
And that's what they claim.
That's what they claim. It's not so.
What do you mean?
Well, I've been detailed to sort of do a piece about this for a newspaper.
Yes.
And I have telephoned this line various times from 10 o'clock until about 1:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And all I have got is a load of cretins either coming up with a load of abuse or a sort of very select clique of people who appear to know each other very well, who apparently spend a lot of money on this line. And I'm quite convinced that it's open to an awful lot of abuse.
What sort of abuse?
Well, you are told to dial a certain number and then chip in with your bit of conversation.
Yes.
Yeah, so you chip in with your bit of conversation or you stay silent. Now, the ones who stay silent are the ones that worry me because they can listen to other people's conversation and they can elicit an awful lot of information from those people which they can later use.
To what end?
Well, they can find out because people... I know they're not supposed to say where they work or what they do, and they're not supposed to give telephone numbers or the monitors chip in. But the monitors are not there all the time. And people do give telephone numbers because I have been given telephone numbers. Do you see what I mean?
Yes, I'm aware of the risks.
Get some absolute kinks.
Tell me what you want done about it.
I'm not sure what can be done because this is a British Telecom thing. Can you complain?
What complaint do you want to make?
Well, I think apart from the fact that a lot of teenagers, under 18, they have a line for under 18s and a line for over 18.
Yes.
A lot of teenagers will ring this number, obviously, when the parents are out and
Yes.
run up horrendous bills. They can also be putting themselves at risk by chatting to some totally unknown guy on the phone.
But are they putting themselves at risk? They're not putting themselves at risk involuntarily.
Yes, I know, they're not putting themselves at risk involuntarily, but they're not aware of the risks, I'm quite sure. They're not aware that there might be some idiot listening who has just dialed the number and who can be listening to whatever they're saying. And if they're about to say, well, I work at McDonald's in Preston or Bolton or wherever, they can be tracked down. I think it's horrendous, this, quite honestly.
But why is it horrendous? That could happen in a number of places. I appreciate that it's a lot easier for it to happen there.
It's making it so easy for it to happen.
But what's wrong with that? What I don't understand is why we should... What you want done about it.
Well, I think the whole thing is not... It's not right. It ought to be stopped.
Why?
Do you not think so?
Perhaps we should take greater steps to make people aware of the potential danger of giving personal details on the telephone. But they are told that. They're told about the cost. They're told about the need not to give names and addresses and telephone numbers out. I don't see that you can do any more.
If you're talking to someone who is chatting you up and you're 17, 16, 15, 15 and, you know, kids of 12 are using this line when the parents are out. I know
Well,
this for a
the
fact.
parents shouldn't be out when they're 12.
No, but they might only have popped down to the next door neighbours or something.
I don't care where they've gone. You can burn to death wherever your parents
You
are.
can... 12-year-olds are reasonably...
You're not going to contradict yourself now, are you, Joe?
No,
Good.
I think...
You were about to say they're reasonably trustworthy. Well, if they're
Well,
reasonably trustworthy, let's trust them to make a phone call.
Parents feel that they can reasonably leave them in the house for half an hour or so.
And let me tell you, they're wrong.
Or 13, or 14, or 15, but it's a great giggle to a lot of these kids, and I'm sure there's no idea what sort of risk they're putting themselves at.
Perhaps they're not putting themselves at greater risk as you think. Perhaps you've been sucked in by what they've said on the radio, when in fact they're laughing at you,
No,
if you like.
It's the telephone, it's not the radio.
Sorry, the telephone. Perhaps they're laughing at you. Perhaps they're saying, I work in such and such a place in such and such a town, which is a load of bunkum. They don't. It's all a game.
I don't think so, because
It has in it an inherent danger.
I'm sure it has.
So all we do is we make people aware that it can be dangerous.
The other night I heard one guy say to a girl that his friend had taken out divorce proceedings against his wife because
Yeah.
she run up a bill of 2,000 quid on this talk line. And I'm quite sure it can become quite addictive. For lonely people, there's a great temptation to ring somebody in an unknown voice on the telephone and talk to them for perhaps 2 or 3 hours if they sound sympathetic. But they might be totally psychotic, these folks. I mean, who do you know who you're talking to?
But it doesn't matter who you're talking to. If they're at the other end of a telephone, you're talking to somebody now who may well be totally psychotic, and indeed so am
Well,
I.
might be totally psychotic, but I mean...
But we're not going to do any harm to each other with a telephone call. Now, if we arrange to meet
no.
somewhere, I might turn up and put an axe through your head.
No, but I mean...
But you can protect yourself from that.
You're missing a very important point here.
I'm not.
You are over the air. Hundreds of people can hear you. You're hardly likely to proposition somebody over the radio, are you? The telephone is far more subtle, far more...
But Joe, you're on the telephone.
I'm on the telephone.
On this, during this conversation, and everyone I talk to is on the telephone.
Yes,
And
but
I never
they
get
don't hear you.
propositioned.
No, well, you won't, because everybody can hear you.
Well, everyone on the
If they
Talkabout,
do
everyone on the
proposition,
Talkabout can hear them.
Yes, and you cut them off. No, not always, no, because if there are only 2 people ringing this number at the same time, they can have an awful long conversation.
Well, first of all, they know when somebody else joins the line. There's a
Yes,
tone.
but they ignore them most of the time.
Well, that's their choice. Are you going to remove choice? Are we going to totally protect people? Because if we are, let's do away with newspapers, because they incite violence, often. So let's do away with newspapers, which will eradicate your job as well, Joe.
No, that's not quite the same.
Well, it's actually not quite the same, no, which means it is the same.
At all.
I'm sorry, Joe. If we're going to eliminate everything that has in it an inherent danger, then we will do nothing.
No, I'm not suggesting we eliminate anything with an inherent danger. I'm saying...
Just this thing that's got an inherent danger.
This is a particular danger, because this is like... This
I think it's a service, and like all other service, it's available to be abused. If people allow themselves to be abused in that way, that is their fault, not the fault of the service.
But they're not even aware that they are being abused.
I don't believe the world is populated by imbeciles. You obviously do, and it's just as well, because they've got to read the garbage you write.
I don't write garbage.
Well, it sounds like you're going to this time.
I'm not going to write anything.
I thought you'd been detailed to write an article on it. Are you now going to refuse to?
I'm not going to write it at all, because
Oh.
there's nothing I can possibly say about this service which would do me any good or them any good, because obviously...
Well, why don't you just do an honest critique, or is that beyond your journalistic powers?
Not at all, not at all.
Then why not do that?
I think that is probably what I will do.
A moment ago you said you weren't going to do anything. You sound like every other journalist. You say one thing, you mean another.
Oh, why are you such a...
Clever person.
Yeah, no, clever detail I was about to say.
That's what you've just done, Joe. You have just said, I'm not going to write anything. And then you said, I'll probably write this.
I'm not certain yet. I'm still
Well, you were certain enough to say, I'm not going to write anything.
weighing it in the balance.
Well, all right, you're weighing it in the balance, but that wasn't what you said. You said, I'm not going to write anything. what you meant was, I haven't yet decided. One wonders why you didn't say what you mean. It seems, Joe, that even if you were on Talkabout, you would be at grave risk. You don't know what you're saying.
Oh, dear me. I'm listening to you on the radio.
Well, aren't you the lucky one? So are 100,000 others, love. How do, Stephen?
Hello, Alan.
Yep.
Can you tell me your views on country sports, Alan?
Yes, I can. How do, Peter?
How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Citizens Advice, Citizens Band. Channel 9.
Go on.
You was talking about a person that was robbed on the M62.
Yes.
In what year?
I don't remember.
You quoted it earlier on. Can you remember the year that you quoted it?
The year I quoted it?
Yeah.
1987. That's this year. That was when I quoted it.
87.
That was when I quoted it. It didn't happen in 87.
Well, if Citizens Band is to be demolished because of that, then we should demolish the police.
Peter, I didn't say it was to be demolished because of that. I said Citizens Band radio is a smashing toy for those that like it. I don't, but those that do are entitled to play with it, as long as we all remember that it's a toy.
Yeah. Some people get help from it. I'm not
That's
saying
up to them. What I'm saying
Yeah.
is we must not rely upon toys to provide us with help.
No, I agree with that.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. I don't know what the problem is then, Peter.
Well, there is a problem because...
Well, let us hear it then.
If you're going to say that there's no help from Citizen Band...
I'm not going to say that. Don't put words in my mouth, Peter. You may be able to do it when you're on your CB, but you're talking to a professional now. Don't put
not
words
a
in my
CB-er.
mouth. I did not say that Citizens Band radio should be done away with, nor did I say that nobody ever gets any help from it. What I said was it has an inherent danger that is too dangerous for us to rely upon, and it's a very nice toy for those imbeciles that like it. I'm not amongst them. I don't. If you can't live with that, tough, die with it.
Yeah, and you was suggesting that...
Well, don't go away, because unlike Citizens Band, I've got the news. I'll come back to you shortly.
1 o'clock news. This is Therese Birch. Work to recover the bodies of the Zeebrugge ferry victims resumes this morning. An estimated 60 bodies were retrieved from the newly righted vessel overnight, but divers are being seriously hampered by conditions on board. From Zeebrugge, Linda Duffin reports.
The first bodies brought ashore have been recovered from the passenger areas. Those top decks are now above water, but Ministry of Defence spokesman David Bland says conditions are still difficult and dangerous.
There will be debris about, fixtures and fittings which have broken loose, and with any ship one has to face confined machinery spaces and that type of difficulty.
The bodies are being taken to a makeshift mortuary at Zeebrugge Naval Base, where a team of pathologists today begins the task of identification. Linda Duffin, IRN, Zeebrugge.
Conservative MP Harvey Proctor is to face sex charges after allegations that he was involved in spanking sessions with young boys. The MP for Billericay is to face 4 charges of gross indecency following an investigation by Scotland Yard's Serious Crime Squad. A third bid will be made today to bury a murdered IRA man. Twice the coffin of Lawrence Morley has left his home, and twice his family has abandoned the funeral, angered at the large police presence. Trouble over the funeral has also sparked off serious street violence in the province. Ken Johnston reports.
Last-minute talks have taken place between Catholic priests and senior policemen to try and reach a compromise that will allow the funeral to go ahead. The success of the talks will only be known later today when police backed by Army again move into North Belfast, where they say they're determined to prevent the IRA putting on a show of strength. The terrorists have indicated this won't happen because they say they've already paid their respects to their dead member. Throughout the night there's been sporadic trouble, with a soldier being shot and slightly wounded, a large number of cars and buses hijacked and burnt, and a series of hoax bomb alerts across much of the province. Ken Johnston, IRN, Belfast.
Nurses are telling the government they want as big a pay rise as the teachers, and that this year they want a straightforward deal. Later this week, the Glasgow Conference of the Royal College of Nursing will also discuss scrapping their no-strike rule. From the conference, our industrial editor, Mark Mardell.
The nurses accuse the government of cheating them over pay for 2 years running, refusing to give them their rise all at once. The Royal College of Nursing has an anti-strike clause built into its constitution, but this year even that is being questioned. Their Labour Relations Officer, Valerie Cowie, says it shows nurses are in a fighting mood.
I think it does. I think it's a very good indicator of the enormous sense of anger and frustration that our members feel about the way they've been treated by this government.
The Royal College say this year the government has set a precedent and they want as much as the teachers, a rise of over 16%. Mark Mardell, IRN, Glasgow.
The Japanese have been sent a stern warning by Britain. If they want free access to Western markets, they must end their trade restrictions against foreign firms at home. Foreign Secretary Sir Geoffrey Howe says if British firms aren't allowed access to Japanese markets, Britain will retaliate. Independent Radio News.
Ring him if you dare. Allan Beswick, the late night show.
Just after 3 minutes past 1, Preston 561,000 if you wish to join us on the phone in. We're into the final hour because we're here till 2. And then Peter.
How are you? You suggested earlier on that because of Channel 9, that all risk should be removed.
No.
Well, I gathered that you did say that, actually.
I'm not overbothered what you gathered. What I said was it is impossible to remove all the inherent risks. Therefore, Channel 9 should not be relied upon.
Yeah. Well, if we can't...
Do you accept that those two statements are different?
Oh, that's perfectly correct.
What do you mean it's perfectly correct? Just answer yes or no. Do you accept that the two statements are different?
Two statements are different. Can you...
The statement you quoted, it's like talking to a child. The statement you made and the statement I made, are they different or do they, in your view, mean the same thing?
Yes.
You can't answer yes accurately to an either-or question.
Well, can we recap on the question then?
I really haven't got all night while I teach you the English language. Go on, we'll ignore all the last bit.
Well, what I would say that if you want to remove all risk from Channel 9, you should do away with the police.
Do they operate on Channel 9?
No. But
Would you like to explain grammatical...
Is there a risk on the police band?
Can we just establish what you have said? Because so far, despite your attempts for it not to be, it is complete gibberish. This is what you said. If you wish to remove all risk on Channel 9, you'll have to do away with the police. Yeah. I have never heard so much gibberish for some months, and I hear a lot on this programme.
Well, it is two statements, actually.
Well, it sounded like one. Would you like to draw the statement?
Well, first of all, if you do away with Channel 9, right?
Yes.
You've also got to do away with the police band as well.
Why? We managed all right before Channel 9 existed. We managed very well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
We had a police force then.
So let's take the police internal communication.
When you say internal, do you mean their communications? Because they're not internal, are they? They're on their airwaves, some of them.
Yeah. Well, let's say that...
Peter, let me help you. I really haven't got all night whilst you use your very tiny brain to get your statement out. You are attempting to say that there is a similar risk in the use of the police radio. Is that what you're trying to say, Peter?
No.
Then I surrender.
I'm
sorry, Peter. I worked with psychiatric patients for a long, long time. I don't want to do it anymore. That was why I left. And as far as I'm concerned, they were able to express themselves considerably better than you. I leave it to you.
Well,
you can talk yourself into your own pit.
Well, let's say the last statement. Let's say that the communication that the police make is exclusive to the police, right?
Well, that's debatable. It depends on what your definition of exclusivity is. Anybody with the equipment can listen to it.
But let us just say that this particular frequency is exclusive to the police.
What particular frequency?
Let's say that the police put it out, right, and the frequency is exclusive to the police.
You cannot have a frequency
Well,
that is
we're
exclusive
just saying
to the police.
this.
I'm not going to play games with you, Peter. I'm not going to sit here while you pretend. If you want to play Let's Pretend, buy yourself a bloody frock and pretend you're a woman. Get yourself a role in a play. Be a whatever you like, but don't come on here saying Let's Pretend for debating points. No, not whatever way I want, Peter. I don't even want to have this conversation. You rang me, remember?
Yeah.
You want the conversation, so you do what you like, but don't ask me to play Let's Pretend. We talk about reality. I'm not prepared to talk about your little playlet.
Let's talk about reality.
No, you talk about it, Peter.
Yeah, I will.
And if you don't get it right this time, you'll be talking to your damn self.
Yeah. Well, let's say that...
No, stop saying let us say. Don't involve me in your jerky little game. Play your game alone.
Well, something goes out on the police band,
Yeah.
right, anywhere in the Red Rose area. Yes?
Is that a supposition, or are you telling me it is a fact?
Fact or supposition?
Then you don't need my reassurance. Continue.
A policeman can rob the individual that
Of
you're
course
talking,
they can. Of
that
course
are
they
at
can.
risk.
Of course they can.
And that's all I'm trying to say.
Well, it took you all night. It's no wonder you work on CB. Goodbye. How do, Mary?
Hello, Alan.
Yes.
I'm phoning up. I bought a car out of the, the Auto Mars.
No, I don't know.
No, well, the Motor Mars. And I paid £2,500 for it. Now, the finance company, apparently the fella who had bought the car off got it on the finance company and sold it while he's still paying for it. Now, the finance company have been on to me and said that they're going to repossess the car back. Can they do that?
In certain circumstances, yes.
Although, like, I bought the car out of the paper sort of thing.
Well, in certain circumstances, yes.
So, do I lose out on my money?
You could do. What you'll have to do is say, if they attempt to repossess it, you're going to fight them in court, all right?
So I'll have to go to court for it?
If they decide to sue you, yes.
I see, yeah. OK, then.
How do, Ray?
Hello, Alan. This is the third time I've called you a Lancashire gobshite.
So? What a child. How do, Ian?
Last night I was listening to a conversation, right? It was about insurance. But it was an argument between NHS and private. Do you remember it?
Go on.
Yeah. Well, I think the best idea of it all is to make NHS optional, right? And so there's no argument of insurance.
What do you mean by optional?
Optional, you can either pick your own insurance company or you can pick the NHS.
Explain fully.
Well, you pull policies out for...
Yeah, I know what policies are. Don't worry about the mechanics of it. Explain what you mean fully. Are you suggesting that if you break your leg in the Cairngorms whilst rock climbing, that when you call the emergency services or when someone calls them on your behalf, if you've opted out of the National Health Service, you should be left up there and wait for Bupa to get an helicopter to come and get you?
Yeah, that would be a difficulty.
Would you just like to answer the question?
Yeah, because the emergency services, things like that.
I see. So you're saying that people don't opt out; they just opt out of the other bits, not the emergency bits.
All I'm saying is, right...
Well, I'm trying to establish what you are saying. It'd help as if you answered the question. You've tried 3 times and avoided it each. Here's the question again. Are you suggesting that a person in a situation of requiring emergency medical care, should be left at the side of the road until we decide whether he's entitled to care on the state or whether we can find the relevant private hospital that he's insured with?
Oh, no, I'm not saying that.
Then would you like to tell me what you are saying? Because I really haven't got all night.
Well, the easy way to explain it would be that,
Well, it hasn't proved easy so far, has it?
Someone had an accident.
Go on.
And they were taken to hospital, right?
Well, we first of all have got to establish whether they're entitled to travel. I mean, it may be that we've got to send a taxi because they've opted out of the health service. Remember, the ambulance is part of the health service.
Yeah, but the insurance...
So what are they going to do? We're going to send them a bus? We're going to send them a double-decker, perhaps?
No, the insurance company have footed the bill.
Well, we don't know that, do we? Are you suggesting that that would be the case?
Yeah.
Well, which ambulance would we send? Because I quite honestly don't want my ambulance service being cluttered up by people that are actually paying the bill themselves. I want it available for all, not for those that have chosen not to contribute to the health service.
I understand that. No, what I was saying is that, like, the ambulances are both, for both cases. You have to pay insurance direct from your wage either way, yeah? So it comes in with your pensions as well. Do you understand it now?
No, it's still gibberish.
You don't understand?
No, it's gibberish. It isn't that I don't understand, it's that it is gibberish. It is not fit to be understood.
Oh, right then. Right.
Right. Howdy, Graham.
Hello. It's about jobs that you say that you've done, like, you know, like you've been psychiatric nurse and in the army and all that, Alan. You there, Alan?
I'm here.
Yeah. Well, I think you're a bullshitter, mainly.
I'm not overbothered.
Well, it's obvious you are, because I've worked it out. You would be now 68 years old if you'd done all the jobs you say you've done.
Fine. Graham, I'm not going to get any conversation with you about this. You make your own mind up. I really don't care either way.
Well, why do you say you've done them when you've not?
Well, Graham, you must make your own mind up. I've never accepted a challenge since I was 4. I'm not going to accept one now. I've nothing to prove. You take it or you leave it. Quite honestly, it doesn't make any difference to me.
Yeah, I just want to know why you lie, though, and say...
Well, Graham, you can rephrase your challenge in as many ways as you like, and you will get nowhere.
Well, why is that? Is that because you're afraid that the truth might come out on the air?
That is another rephrasal.
Well, why'd you lie?
Graham, I've established that I will not even attempt to converse with you on the basis of you throwing out an immature challenge. Now, if you've got something to prove, you go ahead. But I haven't, so I won't.
It is. You are trying to prove something, Alan. You're trying to prove that you know it all, so anyone can ring in.
Graham.
What?
You're on your own, kid.
You're a liar, Alan. Get off.
I'm really hurt, Graham. I hurt so easy. Howdy, Paul.
Oh, Alan. I used to be a taxi driver, but I got banned for drink driving.
Good. You should have been put in prison for 5 years. Well, as a taxi driver, you should have probably got 10.
Well, I got my licence back in 3.5 weeks.
Well, then I'm very upset. I don't want you to have it back. How do Dennis?
Hello, well.
Yes?
I rang the dole up this morning, right, and know with them being on strike, I rang them up the first time, right, and he said, because you're supposed to sign on today, he said, you don't have to sign on, and so I rang them back to see what's the situation about my money, and he said we weren't getting paid this week. Well, I owe a lot of fines out, so I was wondering, like, what could I do, like, 'cause if I don't pay me fines this week, I'm going to end up in prison. So I was just wondering, like, what could I do?
Well, it'd be a good idea to get in touch with the magistrate's court clerk and see what he or she says.
Well, is there nothing, like, you can really do to the dole, like, because,
Well, the first move is to keep yourself out of nick, otherwise you won't have to worry about the dole any longer. You'll do that, possibly, by ringing the magistrate's court clerk and finding out what he or she says.
Yeah.
How do Phil?
Can you tell me, please, when the national speed limit was dropped from 70 miles an hour down to 60 or 50 and then increased up to 60?
No.
You can't?
That's true.
Well, can you tell me, has petrol rationing been in? Or have tickets been...
As far as I'm aware, petrol rationing, in terms of a state-controlled ration, hasn't existed since the war.
Yeah, am I right in thinking, though, that there were vouchers printed?
There were vouchers printed, indeed they are still in existence.
Can you tell me when they were printed?
They're printed frequently, believe it or not. By frequently, I don't mean every week, but petrol coupons and ration coupons and the like are kept in stock, and as this stock becomes out of date in terms of the terminology on it, they do away with them and replace them.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of a discussion we're having about the national speed limit, that it used to be 70 miles an hour on unlimited roads, so to speak, and then it was dropped down to 50, and then it was increased again up to 60.
That is right. It was sometime in the 70s
It was
during
sometime
the
in the
fuel
70s.
crisis, but I don't know when it was.
That's right, and in that fuel crisis there were vouchers issued, weren't there?
I don't know that anyone was officially issued with them, although I must admit I had sight of some myself.
Yeah, can you tell me what the fuel crisis was?
No.
No. Okay.
What, I mean, what it was, the one enough to go round, that was the crisis.
It was about...
Yeah, it was about not having enough.
Yeah.
It was when the Arabs virtually quadrupled the price of oil.
Yeah.
Almost overnight.
And that was in the 70s.
If I remember correctly, yes.
Okay.
The early 70s, but I could be wrong.
Thanks a lot.
Pleasure. We shall talk to Tony very soon.
A far, far better furniture store.
Edmondson's of Blackburn, a far, far better furniture store. For lounge, dining room and bedroom furniture. For famous names and quality carpets. For all home furnishings. Edmondson's offers choice. Edmondson's gives first-class service. And Edmondson's guarantees value for money. All round a far, far better furniture store. At Darwin Street, Blackburn.
A far, far better furniture store. Edmondson's. You're better off at Bradshaw's.
Oh, Harry, I like your new Escort Popular.
Aye, it's really nippy and it's extremely economical.
I've always fancied one of those really sleek XL3Is myself, but I couldn't afford it.
Well, I got mine at Bradshaw's. Their special low finance from 2.5% means I'm driving a real bargain. You want to get down to Bradshaw's yourself? They'll fix you up all right.
Where is Bradshaw's?
Marsh Lane, Preston. Just phone Preston 54083 for written details.
You're better off at Bradshaw's.
Stay tuned next week for another great Red Rose Radio contest. If you can answer 4 motoring questions and your letter's first out of the hat, then you can pick any single item as your prize from the Halford Service Centre in Preston. It could be anything from a brand new bike to a magnificent car stereo system. So don't forget those questions will be coming your way next week. Don't move the dial.
How do Tony? How do Michael?
Oh, Alan, to open it, you've got to close it. And to close it, you've got to open it. When it's opened, it's closed. And when it's closed, it's open. Can you tell me what it is?
No.
The gates on a level crossing.
Okay.
Thank you.
It depends on whether you're a train or a car, doesn't it?
Well, it's whichever way, it's closed and open, isn't it? At the same time.
I suppose so.
hmm
But it's not closed and open to you.
No, but to open it, you've got to close it. And to close it, you've got to open it.
Only if you change the point of reference.
Ah, well, there you go, you say.
Well, a changing point of reference makes your statement valid, but a change of point of reference alters the English language.
Well, there you are, anyway. Okay.
How do Michael? That was Michael. How do Paul?
Hello, Alan. Have you ever heard of Murphy's Law?
Yes.
Right. Well, I've just gone and dropped a piece of toast, butter side down. Does that alter it at all?
No, that's Murphy's Law. That's what Murphy's Law says. How do Ryan? Brian.
I'll do Alan. I'd just like to talk about the thing in the paper about Lady Elizabeth, with, the Queen, with her family locked in a psychiatric hospital.
Well, it's not her family,
Well,
but go
no,
on.
but her cousin. I'd just like to say that I think it's really disgusting, and I can't see how that Lady Elizabeth can say she knows nothing about it when she's
Who's Lady Elizabeth?
the chairman of Burke's Peerage,
I see, yes.
and she happens to be her cousin, her niece. I'd like to say
Whose niece?
the woman that's in the hospital when it's been locked away.
I'm with you, yes.
I'd like to say that I think it's disgusting, and I don't see how they can get away
Well,
with
it may or may not be disgusting. I'm not bothered about that. But the suggestion that Lady Elizabeth would know that her aunt was not dead but in a hospital, I don't know how she would know.
Well, how wouldn't she know?
Well, I don't know where all my aunts and uncles are.
I mean, if
I don't know where all my aunts and uncles are.
if she's supposed to be printing this book, and she's got in there that they both died, one in 1940 and one in 1961, surely she must know that they're still alive.
Well, first of all, I'm not sure that she reads every form, but if it says on the form they're dead and she's never had any contact with them, it's a fair assumption that they are. The fact that they aren't is irrelevant.
Oh, I don't know about
If somebody came to me and said, your Auntie Mabel's dead, I'd say, fine. I didn't even know I had one.
Yeah, but maybe not. But then when you're in that, when you're part of the royal family, they generally do know who all their cousins are and relatives are.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily agree with that.
They're very talked about, aren't they?
I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. They may well be talked about now, but I'm sure that our pleasant Queen, who knows her royal family all the way through, couldn't tell you the second cousin twice removed of Henry VIII. In other words, time, we may well know the names of the people of our generation, but these people have been in hospital for 40 years. It's a different generation, possibly.
Yeah, but somebody must have known they were...
Well, we're not suggesting whether somebody knew. We're suggesting whether Lady Elizabeth knew. You said she did.
Well, I think she did.
Well, what do you base it on?
Well, purely on the fact that...
On pure conjecture, guesswork. You've decided to slag her off, and that's the best way of doing it. Fine, get on with it. I don't mind. If you can buy and sell you, does she care?
Okay, then.
Ta-da. How do, Tony?
Oh, I'd like to talk about bringing back hanging. I think it's wrong.
Fine. Anything else?
Yeah.
No.
Well, don't you think it's wrong